Hello. Hi there. Before we get started, everybody, I do have to ask one question. How is the sound? How do I sound? You see, I'm playing with a new toy tonight, and it is actually a new lapel mic, one that I'm hoping sounds better than the one I've been using the last couple of months. So I have to ask if you can hear me all right, if I sound very, very soft, or if I sound okay. Because, like I said, again, it's a new toy, and I did test it out. Sound muffled? Okay. All right. Muffled. And somebody else says I sound okay. All right. Okay. Yeah, a little. Okay. Do I sound okay back here? Do I sound okay back here? If I sound okay back here, then it's definitely coming from the mic, and it's not coming. And the sound's not coming from, like, say, the webcam there. So that's okay. Good. Then I think we're good there. Okay. Good. All right, which means once again, hi there. Welcome everybody once again to Cast Iron Wednesday. And this, of course, is a tradition that many YouTube channels have been doing on Wednesdays, putting together a cast iron video. Why? Largely because it's a lot of fun. I mean, after all, it seems like mostly the smaller cooking channels, and I guess that includes mine, have been the ones who have been doing Cast Iron Wednesday, whereas those huge channels with millions of subscribers, I haven't heard a peep out of them about Cast Iron Wednesday. I mean, they all love cooking in cast iron, yes, but not many of them not many of them seem to be doing anything in cast iron Wednesday. Another thing that those big channels do, however, is they almost exclusively cook in modern cast iron, and there's nothing wrong with that. I do a lot of that as well. But one thing you don't see a lot of on those huge cooking channels is, of course, vintage cast iron from some brands that we know all too well here. And that's kind of what we are going to be playing with tonight, because as the description of this video says here, tonight I'm kind of celebrating my 6-month anniversary here. I moved to this new home with a gas stove 6 months ago as of today. And so, of course, that means I have to do some celebrating tonight. So yeah, because I've managed to survive this long. But before I do, I need to say hi to everybody, like Debbie and Cynthia Wesley and Dan Jansen and Mike M. Okay, yeah. Well, yeah, that's because the difference here with the microphone is the last microphone I was using was simply a Wi-Fi mic connected to the PC through Wi-Fi. Well, this one is a Bluetooth mic. I got this because I wasn't really satisfied with the sound quality of the previous mic, and so finally, I decided to, based on looking around, it seemed as though Bluetooth would give a better quality sound, and I can only hope that's the case here. So I'm certain, as you see, I sound a little bit different, and I hope the sound quality is better. But yeah, again, hello everybody. Val's Black Cats Rule and Matt Eng and Clico, and hello to all the folks who have been here on my channel all this time. So again, thank you so much. Because yeah, I'm doing a little bit of celebrating today, and you know, of course, what a lot of people like to celebrate with, especially if they're playing with cast iron, and that would be steak. But I mean, of course, I love a good steak. I made a steak yesterday for Valentine's Day. In fact, it was a heart-shaped Delmonico steak, but I still wanted to do something a little different, so and that's why, as the title of this video says, we are doing an Italian recipe here for cooking steak, which, as they call it, steak pizzaiola. Yeah, in fact, I did a little poll on what to cook here tonight, and more people on the poll seem to want this recipe more than the other, which is fine. Can always do the recipe some other time. Yeah, fried taters. Well, we could very well do that tonight as well, but this one is going to be pretty easy because steak pizzaiola is a way of giving an Italian twist to steak, because, you know, Italians, they love their pasta and they love their pasta sauce, and that's why steak pizzaiola is basically steak that's cooked in pizza sauce. And I went and I've been researching this for the last couple of weeks at least, looking through a whole bunch of YouTube videos for suggestions on steak pizzaiola. And I noticed a few things, namely that there are no two recipes for this are identical. You have people who use canned tomatoes. You have people who just chop up their tomatoes themselves. You have a lot of people who use really fancy steaks like ribeye and the like in this dish. But I consider that, you know, if I'm going to be especially considering the cost of a ribeye steak these days, if I was going to do a ribeye steak, I would want to cook that steak as is, because it's a ribeye, and really there's not much better than you can do with a ribeye. On the other hand, a cheaper steak is something I feel it would probably be more worth experimenting. And so I happened to come across an interesting cut here. This is about a pound of steak that sirloin steak, in fact, that I have been marinating. I've covered it with rock salt, and it's been marinating for a little bit more than an hour here in order to tenderize it. But the curious thing is, I came across this steak. First of all, I noticed the price. It was not expensive at all, but it says here top sirloin, and it says culotte steak. I actually had to look that up, and I find that's interesting because, yeah, apparently it is sirloin, but funny thing is, it's actually a cut of meat that apparently is the same cut that they use to make Brazilian picanha. So in other words, this is a picanha steak I'm going to be making tonight. So I hadn't expected that, but I'm certainly looking forward to it. And as you can see, it really wasn't expensive, especially these days for steak. So that's what we will be starting out with. And then from there, of course, all we have to do is a simple pizza sauce, which is really no difficulty at all. And we will cook that together until the steak is done, and we will see how it turns out. Even though I come from an Italian family, I was very proud of having an Italian grandmother, but I do not recall having steak pizzaiola ever as I grew up. So definitely this is something I'm looking forward to trying tonight. And finally, one other thing before we get down to before I stop talking here, of course, is the cast iron that we're going to be playing with, because this is going to be interesting here. I decided to bring out. I have to do this careful because it's already really hot, but I decided to bring out the Griswold number 10 for this. And so, you know, that's interesting because it means I'm going to be cooking a steak in this pan, and then I'm going to be pouring in a whole bunch of tomatoes to cook this steak. So yeah, there's the thing. It's like, oh no, we're going to be putting tomatoes in a cast iron pan. Whatever is going to happen to it? Well, I think we will find out one way or another. So. But anyway, so yeah, once again, thanks to everybody. Tomatoes should tenderize the steak well, and I certainly hope so too. But again, thank you very much to everybody for showing up, and I'm very glad. And as I mentioned as well, questions and answers are very much encouraged, meaning that questions not only about what I'm doing here, but really pretty much if you have any cast iron related discussions, I mean, please feel free to answer questions as well. So as I said, I like this to be something of a two-way conversation here. Besides, again, I have to concentrate on this steak here that I'm heating up. But the first thing I have to do, since I've been marinating this steak with salt, that means I actually have to rinse off the steak and pat it dry here, because of course I don't want it too salty. Actually, I better get that other one here. So that's actually not too hard. Yeah, I used rock salt, by the way, to marinate this steak because I like using rock salt. I'm not sure if the science is what I think it is, but my intention is that by using rock salt, it means that less actual salt is absorbed into the steak. So there is, again, less of a chance of it being too salty. So now from here, all I have to do is clean it, is dry it off. So let me move this over here. all the setup here for the for this dish and the sauce, and move our move this back and move our camera over once again here. There we go. Again, I'm trying to. There we go. Let's move this down a little bit for the moment. Come on. There we go. So yeah, now of course the steak is still sopping wet, so I definitely have to dry this thing off here before we can get this, because you can't get you really can't get any kind of a crust on a steak if it's wet. So yeah, I have to get it as dry as I can, which looks like it's that's actually not too difficult apparently. So once we do that, it's an interesting shape to the steak too. One other thing that appealed to me is that even though the steak is really thin, it's also thick here, which is also good because of temperature control. That's the other thing about cooking a steak. Too many of the steaks they have there in the supermarket are way too thin. It's really hard to get a good sear on a thin steak like that, because of course a thin steak will cook very, very quickly. And so before you've got a good crust on it, you've already reached the point of no return, you know, rare or medium rare. And so that means you have to pull the steak off before you've got the crust that you really want. Whereas a thick steak, there's a lot less chance of something like that happening, I hope. So we'll get the steaks going, and then from there we will be able to prepare the rest of it. But now comes the easy part, and that means how am I going to do this? Okay, that means get just a little bit of high temperature oil, not much. I'm using peanut oil here, and where it is, here it is, my basting brush. All I really need is just like maybe a couple of drops or so. So I hope I can do this without completely drowning the steak. Like maybe just, okay. And just a tiny bit. Come on, come on. There we go. That's all I need. So let's put this aside here. Yeah, because especially with the basting brush, that is more than enough here to coat this steak, especially since now that I've done that, I can, where did I put my kosher salt? Oh, don't tell me I put it back already. Excuse me 1 second. Could have sworn I left it out, but nope, I took it out. I put it back. Always something. Nonetheless, now comes the fun part, and that of course is cooking steak. So all we have to do is give it a nice good coating of salt, and again I'm using kosher salt here because of the large flakes of salt. You can use regular table salt, but in general, I think I agree with the folks who say that kosher salt does a better job on a steak. So then we've got some pepper. Pat it very lightly. And now for the second side. Fortunately, I still actually have some oil on this. So that means probably don't even have to put any more oil on the steak. All I really need is a tiny bit here. And that should be enough, in fact. Okay, so that means we just do the same thing, which is salt the steak. And as you can see, I'm trying to be quick here for your benefit. I'm not saying that is a bad thing, but again, we don't want to wait forever. And then from there, little bit of pepper. And once I do this, one other thing I got to bring out, and that's the probe thermometer. I've made a point enough times that if you're going to cook meat in cast iron, you have to cook it to temperature. So now comes the fun part. Here comes the Griswold. And that also means I have to turn on the vent fan. And I'm wondering how this is going to affect the mic as well. Because, oh, one last thing also. Open the window a little bit. You know, you know what happens when you cook steak. There we go. I've already had the windows in the other room open already. So, away we go. 1 and 2. I mean, it's not very wide, but it's thick and it's also very long, and that's why I chose a number 10 cast iron pan here. And in fact, we're not even going to thoroughly finish cooking this steak because we're going to be cooking it in tomato sauce. So all I really want, more than anything else, is a good sear on this. So that really just means being patient more than anything else. Kind of like it's, yeah, it's almost like, you know how they say you're supposed to cook your steak, you know, just sear your steak on the stove top and put it in the oven. In this case, it's a little, well, it's not too different from that. We're going to sear the steak on the stove top and then cook it in tomatoes. So that's definitely something different. Meanwhile, I've got to quickly rinse off and dry off this plate as well. All right. And while we're waiting here, yeah, we definitely have smoke going on, but I can only hope the vent is taking care of it. So, I'm actually quite proud of this. This is a Griswold number 10, and I've told folks this story before. So, turn it over right now. Yeah, the story of my Griswold number 10. Namely, that this is the pan that was one of my life lessons here when I was young and naive and throwing money all over the place to get a decent cast iron collection because I wanted everything, man. It's like for a while I just had this urge here to have a Griswold because I was young and naive. So it was really just something I wanted. And I ended up going onto eBay and paying a fair amount of money, more than I should have paid, for this Griswold number 10. Especially since only about 2 weeks after I actually acquired it, I went to the Brimfield Antique Show for the very first time. And there at the Brimfield Antique Show, I came across this exact pan, a Griswold number 10. And it was selling for half the price that I paid for it on eBay. So that was definitely my life lesson there. I learned there and then that eBay is expensive. And I'm making sure not to make that kind of mistake again. Oh yeah, just think how much it would be today. Oh, tell me about it. This was about 10 years ago, in fact. So yeah. Things have changed in the past 10 years. I know, as we say, prices on everything have gone up, and that's certainly true. But yeah, especially cast iron, because we've heard about the big renaissance that cast iron has had over the past decade or so, when we've experienced it ourselves, and that, of course, means that prices in cast iron have definitely skyrocketed at antique malls and on eBay, especially since the vendors are a little bit better at identifying cast iron than they used to be. There are still some things that you folks know that the antique vendors don't. Yeah, the heart wants what the heart wants. Yes, exactly. So, all right. And I think I will just do the side, and that will really be about it, because as I mentioned, we're going to be preparing a sauce to cook this in. So that's why I'm not too worried about temperature this time, thank goodness. So yeah, even though I said a minute ago that I was going to get out a probe thermometer, I am still going to do that because, once we cook it in the tomatoes, I still want to cook it to temperature. there are two options here for a steak, cooking a steak this way with Pizzaiola. One option is to cook it to temperature so that you've got a nice medium rare on the inside. The other option is to go the other way and really, really cook it to the point where it's just plain falling apart or about to fall apart. So, you know, it's not just, I mean, yes, it's well done, but that's the way you get it when, say, like a pulled, you know, when you put, you know, like when you barbecue a brisket, for instance, and do it to the point where you can just pull it apart. So those are the two options there. And with that, in fact, I can even turn this heat down here because the next step here, I'm not going to use a screaming hot cast iron pan. So I definitely am going to have to cool this thing down a little bit. All right. Right now, in fact, I might even just turn the heat off for a few minutes just to let it cool down, because I'd say we're probably about done searing this steak at this point. Yeah, that doesn't look too bad. And anyway, remember, this thing is going to be coated in tomato sauce anyway. So now we're going to put this aside, and I have to waste a few minutes while this thing cools off, because at this point, if I were to just say throw my sauce or onions or anything into the pan, it would be way too hot. But it's only going to take a few minutes. In fact, I think I can even turn off the vent fan now. There we go. So now I'm not yelling. But maybe the sauce negates the butter. Oh, yeah, exactly. Butter would, yeah, I would say that the sauce negates the butter too, because again, this is not the same as your typical steak, which is basically you do this really to give as much flavor into the steak as you can by putting in a little bit of butter and garlic and rosemary. And really, that's about it. Yeah, I know a lot of people use their own steak rubs, and that's perfectly fine too. I'm not going to tell you how to have your steak, but finishing, yeah, exactly, but maybe not in a pizza sauce. Yes, exactly. That's again, yeah, I like to cook my steak on the fat side first to try to render a little bit to try to fry the steak. And you know, that's actually not a bad plan. Maybe the next time, since the thing is already out of the pan at this point. But yeah, this is, but the next part is nothing difficult either, because, you know, I mean, I'm sure a number of folks have made their own pizza sauce. And I'll say this, that I have made many times, said many times before. There's nothing wrong with using the canned stuff, even though, of course, on YouTube, they always make their own pizza sauce because it's really that easy, and it's probably even less expensive in this case. I mean, here I am using a 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes, for instance, and also here I've got I chopped up or I cut up an onion, and I deliberately cut it up into large pieces. In fact, I could probably even throw that in the pan right now, because yeah, I would like to get these onions nice and soft. So now is probably not a bad time to do that. I still have the heat turned off, in fact, but it's a good way to start. I could go the distance and caramelize these onions, and that, oh, I mean, I love caramelized onions, but probably all we really need to do is just get it to the point where the onions are soft. So after this, I'm also going to throw in some garlic, some sliced garlic cloves. But again, I don't want it to be too hot because, of course, we don't want burned garlic. Now, that is not a good thing. Anyway. Hello, Wyoming Yeti as well. Missed the beginning? Well, don't worry. You could always start watching the beginning and then catch up from there. Or, of course, you can just watch it as you know, the recording later on this evening or tomorrow or whenever it's convenient for you. So, I mean, that's the nice thing about doing these things on YouTube like that. But yeah, as I mentioned already, I am right now just beginning a very basic and simple homemade tomato sauce, or pizza sauce, actually. And it's really not going to have much more than just the tomatoes and some garlic And then from there, throw in a little bit of oregano and salt and pepper. And that's about it. A very basic pizza sauce. I think, in fact, I can now turn the heat, based on the sound I'm hearing from these, I can turn the heat back on to low, very low, so that, it'll still be good enough to cook these onions and the tomatoes. Craig Werner, turning 65, time for Medicare. Well, yeah, it can't be helped. I mean, like it or not, we all turn 65, whether or not we want to. So, yes, this is Griswold number 10. That is true. I did show the bottom of this so at the beginning before I threw the food into it. And I told the story of this pan, that this was something of a life lesson. Very briefly, what I learned from this was, in general, don't buy on eBay unless you know that you are absolutely getting yourself a really good deal. Because eBay in general, especially Griswold, is way overpriced. I was scanning for Griswold on eBay today while preparing that short video that I actually published earlier. It's kind of like an introduction to Griswold, and that actually, by the way, I'm hoping within the next few days to do about at least a 6-part series. When I say series, they're going to be short films. So I mean, each one is only got to be about a minute long. But on the whole, at least, I want to get a very quick look at one of our favorite brands, and that would be Griswold, because everybody talks about Griswold, and of course, when you go to the antique malls, that's all you ever see. You see Griswold, Griswold, Griswold. Oh, and Wagner too. So, but I mean, what can I say? It's like right now, in fact, on eBay, somebody has the famous and extremely rare Erie Spider skillet there on eBay, and you know how much he's selling it for? If you look, you'll see the price. But I will tell you that the eBay is listing the Erie Spider skillet for $6,400. Yes, you heard that right. $6,000 for a cast iron skillet. Oh, but it's an Erie. It's a Griswold. Okay. The only possible reason it would sell at that price is for the collector's value, period, the end. And even then, up until today, I would have said that the going price for the Erie Spider would be maybe about $2,000. So, yeah, I am not going to take out a bank loan or a 401k withdrawal or anything like that just to get an Erie Spider skillet. Obviously, the reason why that guy is selling it because he hopes someone will. That's your gas bill. Yeah, don't remind me of that. Actually, that's twice my gas bill. So, okay. But we're glad to hear you are doing, buffering. Okay, I'm sorry about that, Debbie. Yeah, Cynthia, we'll take 4. Well, I certainly hope not. I mean, that's throwing your money away. I much prefer the thrill of the hunt in that, yes, there have been some instances where I have succumbed to temptation and paid out far too much money for cast iron. Those have been pretty much once in a lifetime experiences. Like I told you the story of the 15-gallon cauldron, by the way. I noticed as well these onions actually are softening because they're shrinking too. Yeah, I mean, this was a decent sized onion, and yet it does seem like it's shrinking down to a good size. So I think I'm at the point now where I can throw in the garlic, and then we're almost ready for the tomatoes. Where is that garlic? Here it is. There we go. Yeah, I sliced up some garlic. I didn't mince it. I wanted to slice it, and in the hope that I get the kind of brown garlic. You know the kind that's only just barely slightly brown, and that's where the flavor mellows out, and it just takes a nice, wonderful, mellow and smooth garlic flavor. At least that's my intention. But the fact that it's not instantly burning also shows that this pan has cooled off. So we're doing pretty good. Has anyone else noticed this in the last few weeks? Comments are made of my remarks before I say the remark. If you're referring to here on live, maybe your connection might actually be buffering. That would be my guess. Either that or the topic I'm talking about is so obvious that you can, in fact, comment about it in advance. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing either. Smells like casserole has been okay. Made turkey soup in her large enamel cast iron Dutch oven. Well, that sounds pretty good there, Terry. And I'm hoping if you were sick or not feeling well, at least, having a cold or something, hopefully that turkey soup helped. Sorry about the internet problems, Debbie, as well. But so far so good. This looks like it's going to be a pretty good base here for our sauce. I'm not sure if this garlic is starting to brown yet, but I'd say probably it won't be more than a few more seconds or so. Because again, we only just want barely toasted garlic. We definitely don't want to burn it. We don't want to get it a dark brown. So we are almost done here. Anyway, but this, well, once again, this is, here we are cooking in this Griswold pan. Folks, yeah, so let me throw a question out as well for those of you who are here, kind enough to show up tonight. How many of you do have Griswolds? I'm sure some of you do, and I would not be surprised if some people don't, because, Griswold is generally rare and valuable, which is one reason why it sells so high. But as other folks know, you can indeed still get lucky even today and manage to score a cut rate price on something like a Griswold, as long as you're patient and you have an idea of what to recognize when you find it, that is. So if anybody here has a Griswold, go ahead and tell us about it. What kind of logo does it have, and what size number is it? Somebody says an 8-inch Griswold. My mother-in-law's. Nice. And yeah, regarding YouTube causing a slight delay in the audio, but not in the comments. Well, that's certainly possible. And Mike M has several Griswolds and many others. Well, congratulations. The mic is noisy. How is the mic noisy? What is happening here? Oh, well, for starters, I see the mic has this thing here, this little, those little foam shields. I had one on here, but it looks like it came off, unfortunately. Okay, one piece of inherited Griswold from my dad. Well, again, hey, that means it's a nice family heirloom. So there's something for you. Considering that Griswold was started out in the 1860s, however, pretty much, I mean, it didn't start using the Griswold name until about sometime past or around the year 1900. There's still a lot of history to it because, as you know, that means we're talking about the year 1900 to the 1960s. They were, of course, bought out by the same company that bought out Wagner in 1957, but again, that's still a lot of history. There we go. Now, I'm going to cook these tomatoes until they are reduced somewhat, because, again, that's the whole point. We've got a cooked sauce here. And that's not going to take very long. So yeah, here we go again. Not only have I added tomatoes to a cast iron pan, I've added tomatoes to a Griswold cast iron pan. What's going to happen? Well, that's a good question, especially since I'm also going to up the ante and throw in just a little bit of red wine. Not much, maybe like a dash or so. And that's about it. Because there we go, that adds flavor. Actually, I should have added the wine before the tomatoes because it would have helped deglaze the pan. Actually, it still would. So, now that we've done that, I mean, I know a lot of people add sugar to their pasta sauce or pizza sauce to sweeten it up. But in this case, I guess you could say the wine does the same thing. And yeah, I'm definitely going to have to cook it now so that I can, cook out the alcohol and leave the taste. But that is certainly helped to, in fact, now I think I can even turn the heat up a little bit. Just turn the heat up to a little under medium, and we will go from there. Also into this, let's throw in, well, of course, you gotta have oregano if you're doing a pizza sauce. I mean, that's pretty much a given. I don't want it too much because unlike, say, parsley or cilantro, you can get too much flavor if you throw in too much oregano, but that should be plenty. And to this, we will also throw in only a dash of red pepper flakes, but not much. Yeah, I definitely, this is a famous brand, of course, Badia. I'm not even sure if I'm pronouncing it right because that's in the so-called international section, or you can get it at even cheaper prices at Spanish markets and sometimes Chinese markets as well. So there we go. Between the wine and the red pepper flakes, there's definitely going to be some flavor to this sauce. And to this, meanwhile, we will also throw in, well, we got to have, of course, some salt. And pepper. And there we go. Now we're just going to cook this sauce until it's bubbling and has reduced somewhat. At which point then, all we do then is throw in the steak. So yeah, this really isn't so hard. So even though this is my first time making this, and I can only hope that other folks have made steak pizzaiola, or if you haven't, I'm hoping this inspires you to give it a try. Because the smell of this already is something else. I mean, especially with the wine in this sauce. I made homemade paprika today. Oh, really, Corey Clark? Yeah, I only learned recently that paprika is really no more than powdered red peppers. Well, there's a certain kind of pepper, not just red peppers that they use to make paprika. Yeah, it's not actually a spice in itself. In that, no, it's not like there's a paprika tree somewhere. So yeah, that surprised me as much as anyone. And fortunately, I'm starting to see some steam coming off the sauce, and the sauce is already not as you can see, it's not very liquid already. So from the looks of it, I'm hoping within just a few minutes or so, the sauce will be ready. I find the interaction of tomato and iron adds an acidic bite, but some do like to balance with sugar or wine. Yeah, I mean, I realize it's going to almost certainly affect the seasoning of the pan, of course. Quite frankly, I'm probably going to need to reseason this pan after this. And that's actually one reason why I chose to do it, because I realized it's been a few years since I seasoned this pan. And unfortunately, I've not been getting daily use to this Griswold pan, so it's not at the point where the seasoning is just going to last forever. If I only had like maybe 3 or 4 pans in the kitchen, I'm sure I would have used it much more often. But I'm still doing what I can as an excuse to, go through all of the, as many of the pans in my collection as possible. That's what I get for having cast ironitis. Or as the hashtag says, first world problems. Because yeah, if you have to worry about which cast iron pan I'm going to make this dish in tonight, you might have cast ironitis. And from here, Honey Badger, I had some 60s Desco-ware. That's interesting. Red sunburst. Anyone else like the old Gatemark skillets with fancy handles? I love mine. I have one of them, I'm pleased to say, which I know I've shown and I have included in a couple of videos as well. My fancy handled Gatemark pan is a number 9 size. And that pan also is one of the, considering its size, one of the lightest and thinnest cast iron pans I've been lucky enough to encounter. I think I've actually encountered one that was lighter and thinner. I have to dredge my memory to remember where I encountered it. I think it was back at the National Dutch Oven Gathering. But it's still very light and thin. So yeah, those are really nice pans, especially if you like cooking in something that's light and smooth too. And yes, Rick, it makes brownies too. My mom loved hers, and oh, you're still mentioning the Descoware, I guess. All right, what I'm really looking for is this stuff to be bubbling. Maybe I should turn the heat up a little bit. I'm only at about medium right now, so that should probably be enough because, hey, just like that, here we go. It's starting to bubble. That's really what I was looking for. I don't want to burn it, of course, but at this point, I think there's only like a couple of minutes to go here on this sauce because it doesn't take long to cook a tomato sauce. And yeah, the smell is definitely very attractive as well. I could throw cheese into this too, except that, I mean, considering I'm throwing a steak into it, I mean, I do want really the flavor to come as much from the meat as possible. Cynthia, I have a spinner, BSR Red Mountain #7, made it into my cornbread pan. Yeah, exactly. You do what you do. Yes, definitely. And I'm sorry to hear your #7 is a spinner, but I would agree there. That means it's still a great cornbread pan. You can still bake in those pans with no difficulty at all. I believe this, I would say this is not a spinner. So it may be my only #10 size pan that's or larger that's not a spinner. So I don't know, maybe because it's Griswold, who knows? Regardless, that did not take long at all to have this sauce ready. So ADHD, bipolar, mic cutting out, mic cutting out. Anybody else? Can you hear the mic all right? I'm just looking here. Yeah. Hey, hello, Walnut Woodworker. I think I like the old microphone better. Really? Okay. I'm going to have to ask for other opinions, I guess, as time goes by, maybe even in the comments, so that we can get a better idea of whether this Bluetooth mic is better than that other mic. But yeah, tonight I may not be cooking meth. No, I've never cooked meth because no, I'm not Walter White. I get those comparisons all the time, but I like to think my cooking is a little bit more healthy than his. So, okay, it sounds like the wind is blowing over the mic. Really? Okay, may have to see what I can do about that. I think I'm going to try putting this little foam um, cover back on the end of the mic because that came off. You're probably going to hear some, you're probably going to hear, and I don't want to drop it in the sauce either, but thing over right now. Does this sound any better, folks? Does this sound any better? So now I'm putting this back on my lapel. It sounds like there's friction from cloth. Well, yeah, that's exactly what I was doing right at this moment. So now that I've done that, I'm hoping that improves the sound quality here. This mic is brand new anyway, and I still have to get used to it as well. So that sounds better. Okay, well, that's an improvement, and that's good to know. So I'm definitely going to have to, Bluetooth distortion. Okay, well, now at this point, I think I'm at what I wanted, where the sauce is definitely hot enough, which means now comes the last part. Where did I put it? Here it is. Here is where we put the steak back in and let it cook. So yeah, yes, that's just it. For the folks who just arrived, yes, that is correct. I have just put 2 steaks into this pan here full of tomato sauce. That's because, again, we are doing an Italian recipe here. steak pizzaiola. And my intention is for the steaks to cook in this sauce. So, I mean, I chose a sirloin especially for that reason, so that the sauce would help to tenderize the steak as it cooks, as well as impart flavor into it. And at this point, I think I can probably even stop playing around with it, because now it's really, again, just a matter of seeing if we can get this thing to the right temperature. So here's where we pull out the probe thermometer and see what we get right now to get an idea of how long it's going to take to do this. And it is showing right now, this one is showing 94 degrees, so we do have a little while to go yet. This one, on the other hand, the smaller piece, of course, is showing, this one is showing it's dropping to about 105 or so. So it's probably not going to take very long, in fact. Yeah, I mean, so far, whenever I cook steak in cast iron, I really have to keep a close eye on the temperature, in fact, so that it doesn't overcook. But that's why I wanted to cook the sauce in advance as well, so that we can be sure everything is well done. Walnut Woodworker, I was doing my normal stovetop seasoning. I decided to use a new rag for seasoning. Turns out my new rag was not pure cotton. Oh, getting plastic out of my Wagner. Ouch. That's a problem, all right. I'm hoping that maybe a lye bath might help to dissolve it. Beyond that, you may have to perhaps, well, I think electrolysis might help. But beyond that, it may actually have to heat the pan enough for it to melt off. No, do not throw it into a fire. I'm not telling you to do that. In fact, I can probably even turn the heat back down a little bit so that it doesn't heat up too fast here. But I'm sorry to hear that. Said, cussing and hot cast iron go together. Oh, yeah, exactly. So you must be talking about when you accidentally grab the pan without the pot holder. Val's like cat's rules. I looked at those spoons at Aldi today. Bamboo spoons. That does sound nice. Yes. My daughter was burned at the sitters. Oh, that's what you're talking about. Her chest. Well, that doesn't sound like a cast iron pan did that. Post the steak pizzaiola recipe. Oh, I will definitely do that. Considering this is my first time trying it, I wasn't sure how this was going to turn out. But yeah, I have to say, this looks like this is not going to be difficult. And yeah, this is really one of those easy recipes of the kind that I like. And I can only hope that that steak tastes as good as it looks. Although, with any luck, that shouldn't be too difficult. I'll remember that day for the rest of my life. Scariest thing for my baby. Oh, okay. Oh, I see. Maybe if a baby was sick, my condolences for that. And hello as well to Captain Kirk. I don't think I've said hi to you tonight yet either. But there we go. Okay, try putting ice on it and scratch it off. I burned a lint-free rag to one of mine and it worked. Well, yeah, that is the thing too. I mean, some of it can probably scrape off. Yeah, maybe indeed you might have to heat the pan up at least to maybe, I don't know, 200 degrees or so to soften it. And from there, you should be able to scrape it off with a chainmail scrubber or steel wool. Actually, I might suggest steel wool so that you can throw it out and it won't permanently get stuck in the scrubber then. So that would be my suggestion there. Hello, just got out. Sorry, was on reseasoning 8 skillets. Oh, I don't blame you at all. Where did you get the little Dutch oven? Oh, you're talking about these. Yeah, these ones, in fact, I've had these for several years. They were a present from my brother, and he got them at Christmas Tree Shop. So it was several years ago, but I think he probably paid, oh, I don't know, $6 or $7 for each of these. This one, on the other hand, I actually just bought this a few weeks ago. It was at Aldi, in fact, and I paid $6 for it, and it has a cast iron lid as well. This one is bare cast iron, it's not enameled, and I'm using that for my Crisco. The Crisco that I only use for greasing down my pans. I do not cook with that Crisco. Keep that separate. But this is not taking long at all, is it? So let me check this once again, and have to be sure whether or not we're at the right point, because this says 120, 121. I think it's about time to pull it here, especially since the smaller one says here it's probably up to 130. Okay, so believe it or not, I think we're already done here, and that didn't take long at all. I mean, I started this with all this talking at just after 8 o'clock, and look at that. Here we are. It's done. So that means now we get to plate it. So I'd say, especially considering how quickly that was, this might be one of those dishes you may want to make on a weeknight for your family, because that sure didn't take long at all, did it? In fact, okay, now that we've plated it, I think it's necessary, of course, to put more sauce on this, because that's really the whole point here. I mean, we certainly do not want to abandon this sauce. Some folks make pasta as well and serve that in the sauce, because there certainly is enough sauce here for that, I would say. I chose not to for the simple reason that I'm by myself. I mean, God, I'm not even going to be able to finish these steaks, never mind put pasta on the side. So, nonetheless, there we go. Even though I got a little bit here on the side, all smothered in the steak sauce, in the pizza sauce. Here is our steak pizzaiola, which I will put to the side and let it relax, or let it rest. Okay, I didn't even cover my oil. I definitely need to do that. Do not want any disasters tonight. Okay, which means, actually, I should do one other thing, though. Even though I'm not making pasta, I definitely should get this sauce out of this pan as fast as possible. It would not be a good idea to just leave it here in the pan. So let's try to move it over this way. And I'd better grab a glove for this. And hey, we actually get to use the pour spouts. How nice. Carefully, that is. And of course, nonetheless, I still spill it anyway. What else is doing? What are you doing, Trouble? He's scratching at the refrigerator, which is his way of saying he wants something. Hi, Trouble. And right now, as I'm holding this, he is trying to climb up my leg. Isn't he adorable? Meanwhile, this heavy pen here is starting to slip. Excuse me, I have to put it down and readjust it. There we go. It did not hurt my wrist, it's just that I felt it starting to slip. Yeah, even though I did, remember, I actually fractured my wrist a couple of years ago. However, I am doing just fine there. Okay. So far, so good. So that means, on top of everything else, got a nice bowl of sauce here that I'll be able to use. Probably, in fact, I could just as easily reheat that and have some pasta. But yeah, Trouble knows what's good. Well, I wouldn't expect him to like tomato sauce, that's for sure. And also, he tends to actually turn his nose up. Both him and Miss Mobley, they turn their nose up at most cooked foods. Believe me, I offer it to them on a regular basis. But even things like steak, they generally have not been interested in, at least not cooked steak. He goes crazy for raw meat, but not cooked steak. So, try to keep my place nice and neat here. Excuse me one moment as well, while I rinse this can out before throwing it in the recycle bin. Yeah, after 6 months, my recycle bin is still mostly clean. Largely, of course, because I rinsed my cans out. Yeah. There we go. Okay, yeah, still, oh, Mike's still cutting out. I'm sorry to hear that, Pawpaw Dan. Is anybody else having sound problems with this mic? So, I mean, I'd hate to think that this mic may not have been a good investment. I mean, I really got this Bluetooth mic because I would have, yeah, because I was hoping it would be a better quality. Oh, and somebody else says it sounds fine. Okay. All right, Trouble prefers the taste of raw mouse. That's actually true. Yeah, when we first got him, yeah, just not the quality of the old, not the quality? Okay, that's interesting. Mike is not the best. Some say yes, some say no. All right. Well, especially since I spent money on it, I will judge that over time. But yeah, in my old apartment, when I was living in the hood before I moved here to New York, um, the we definitely had a mouse problem. There is no question about that. That, of course, was we were in the middle of the city and we were on a first floor apartment. So naturally there were mice. I mean, that was inevitable. And those mice were were not afraid of us at all. They were coming out in the middle of the kitchen and pretty much giving us the finger and not really caring at all. I mean, granted, they did run away when we actually tried hitting them or catching them or anything like that. But no, they were pretty smart there. We put out poison traps for them. They worked maybe for a few days, and then after that, the mice learned not to touch them. So that was when we made the decision. Okay, we're going to get a cat, and we went and spent a few months. Because again, in the big city, as we found out, it was pretty hard to get a cat in the big city. But we ended up getting not one, but two kittens. And in fact, that was kind of like a 2-for-1 deal because we paid for one kitten. And when they actually came to bring the kitten to us, they said they had to get rid of the they had to get rid of the rest of the litter as quickly as possible and offered us a second one for free. And of course we said yes. And that's how Miss Mobley came to us on the same night. So they are siblings, brother and sister, even though they're quite different in their personalities in their own ways. And it didn't take long before Trouble caught his first mouse. I mean, they were only 3 months old when they came to us. By the time Trouble had reached maybe about 6 months, I still remember I was woken up in the middle of the night, in fact, by saying, Trouble got a mouse. And then Eric, Trouble got his first mouse. And I remember saying, awesome. So yeah, they definitely scared the mice away. And so yeah, Trouble was quite a mouser. In fact, he did even catch a mouse here in this new house. He caught one. Maybe, what was it? Maybe about 3 months ago, I think. I remember I came down at 5 o'clock in the morning, and of course I stepped on it, but it was definitely a real dead mouse. However, I have not seen any more than that, so we are still doing pretty good here. So far, I've liked a lot about this new home. Okay, have you seen a recast Griswold? Yes, I have, in fact. Looked on my Facebook from about a year ago, I think. It was at an antique mall. In fact, it was the antique mall that's close to me now. The early Owego Antique Center here in mid-state New York, just off of Route 17. That time I was browsing them and I saw it was a number 14 size, no less. It was a huge number 14 pan, and yes, it was a Gatemark Griswold recast. It had a very rough Griswold large logo on the back with a huge Gatemark all across it. The seller recognized at least it was not a real Griswold. It was still selling with a price tag of $125. And you know, That may not have been a bad price for a vintage number 14 cast iron pan. If I didn't already have one, I may have been tempted. But of course, I've got old Stumpy, my BSR number 14. But nonetheless, I did take a photo of that, and it is there somewhere on my Facebook. So I have seen them. Those recasts, by the way, are just that. They are recasts. They are not, okay, how hot is this? I think it's getting to the point where I can even wash this out right now. Those recasts, by the way, are not really meant as counterfeits, not even Griswold. Yes, there are counterfeit Griswolds, but the recasts are not that. They were done for a completely different reason. Recasts were made by maybe single persons or small foundries. Wappick was famous for it, in fact, using discarded Griswold molds to make their own cast iron pans. And they were just doing it just to make some cast iron pans at little to no cost. Meanwhile, on the other hand, of course, counterfeit Griswolds are just that. They're made to try to fool people in the collector's market. Oh yeah, no, this is already at the point where I can hold this and not get burned. So I definitely should wash. Oh, hi, trouble. So I should definitely wash this out right now and get the tomato sauce out. So let's show you that as well. Again, this was a cast iron pan. I used tomato sauce, and I also mixed some wine in it. Right now, I want to at least get some nice hot water first. I don't want I don't want too cold water on here, because when I put it back on the stove top, I really do not want this thing to crack. There isn't much of a chance of that happening, but I recognize there's a small chance. So away we go. What was that some people say about how cast iron is so hard to clean? I mean, all I'm really doing is just rubbing this chainmail scrubber across. I'm not giving it any elbow grease at all. Tomorrow, if I let this sit overnight, it might be harder to clean, but nonetheless, looks like we are about done already. And having done that, let's take a look. There we go. Check this out. I made tomato sauce in this Griswold cast iron pan. How does it look? As you can see, I'm trying to shine a light on it. Not bad at all. I think. I hope I'm not bragging when I say that. Let's get this thing back to the stove here and dry it off. And here's where I just put it back under a low heat so that it will heat up gradually, and the water will evaporate that way. But there we go. Now in the light of the spotlight I have here, it does look like, as you can see, maybe it does look like the seasoning has indeed been affected. So on the whole, it will probably be a good idea for me to re-season this cast iron pan, maybe even strip and re-season it. But it certainly did not ruin what we have here. In fact, I think I'll try a little bit of the sauce, especially just so that I see if I can detect any of the iron taste that they say happens when when too much iron leaches into it. Or maybe it's just an excuse to sample this sauce. Who knows? Well, this is a nice sauce. Wow. Because I put a little bit of red pepper flakes in it, there's a little bit of bite. I can even taste the wine in the background. And no, I do not really taste anything in the way of like a metallic taste. This is a nice little sauce here. I definitely need to reuse this. Whoops. I turn this off. I goofed. Looks like there's a little bit of sauce left on the side. Let me quickly wipe that off. In fact, I'll just use a sponge. There we go. My bad. Although you can see how the flames actually, you see the star pattern on this. That's definitely from it resting on this burner here. But anyway, all I'll need to do, at least for tonight, is once this is all dried off, I'll be able to simply, I'll simply be able to grease it down. Rick, does your pooch bring you the mice she caught? Yes, actually, Trouble did leave mice for us. Oh yeah, that sauce is good. I am definitely, well, of course, I haven't even tried the steak yet, but I'm already about ready to give this recipe a thumbs up just based on this sauce. And there is really nothing to it. I mean, I made barely any effort at all, as you can see. And it took longer to cook this because I've been yakking and talking all this time here. So if you cut probably about 1/3 of the time it took me to cook this, that's probably a better idea of how long it might take you to cook this, which means you could have this whole thing done, assuming, of course, you chop up the onion in advance and you've got the steak marinating already with salt. You could probably make this whole thing start to finish within about 40 to 45 minutes at the most. So definitely this is the type of thing you could make on a work night. If you get yourself a nice cheap cut of steak. I mean, steak, of course, is it's something that you generally needs to be done special. On the other hand, what if you use the same recipe on some other meat besides steak? I'm wondering now how it would taste with chicken, for instance. But then again, don't they do that already with chicken parmesan? So there we go. Anyway, that's the thing with country A cats. Yes, exactly. And what am I hearing meanwhile? I'm hearing something loud. Excuse me one second. Oh, I know what it is. Apparently, I left my computer on upstairs, and my computer appears to be playing something upstairs. I'll have to check that when it's done here. Okay. Last shot has quit hurting, but vision is about the same. Well, the best I could say, Papa Dan, is I suppose it probably still has to heal. That would be my best guess. So, if nothing else, I'm hoping at least you're no worse than you were before. So, our cat catches bunnies and takes them under the deck to eat. Ooh, boy. Anyway, back to cast iron here. What can I say? It's like, as I said, this, of course, was a Griswold number 10 large logo. Or actually, they call it LBL, which is, what is that? Is that large block lettering, I think. And you can definitely say that because only Griswold used this block lettering for its logo, especially for the size number. I mean, that's one way to instantly spot a Griswold, is that on the handle, you've got the size number, but it is in block lettering. I mean, the O or the 0, come on, do this right. The 0 is square, it's block, it's not round like you might see with a Griswold. So, on the other hand, of course, folks may remember last year I came across a Canadian-made skillet that also had that block lettering. It was a number 8. And because of the block lettering of the number 8 on the handle, I thought it was a Griswold until I was corrected and was told that was actually a Canadian-made cast iron pan. Not that there's anything wrong with that either. Maybe the computer upstairs turned it, well, who knows. So, taste kind of like the taste of metal of a can of soda and tooth filling. If you're talking about iron leaching into the sauce, I will say again, I don't taste any of that. So I only make a huge skillet full. I like it, but I've made it for years, and I always just cook it in my skillet. Okay, so I guess one other thing is I think we're about ready. I mean, this steak has definitely rested long enough. So let me clean up my mess a little bit more, get these tongs out of the way. I did tell you, by the way, these are Vollrath tongs. I think I mentioned my story about how Volrath is still alive and well. They just simply have not made cast iron in almost 60 years. So yeah, they are a restaurant supplier and business supplier, and they've been doing a very good job at it too. Um, Even though that means all of their product now is made overseas. No, that's not true. I think they do have some made in USA stuff, but they also have quite a bit of Chinese and also India made. Well, that's just how it is. That's globalization for you. But here we are. Here is our steak pizzaiola. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to giving this a try. I think I had better take at least one shot though with my with the camera before I do that. Probably should have taken a couple of pictures of it in the pan, in fact, before I took it out. Oh well, there we go. It's pretty good. Because now comes the moment of truth. Because everybody knows that when you cut it, when you have a steak, you gotta see how well or how poorly it cooked. Now, where did I put my knife? Oh, I put it over here. And here we go. Let's try to, again, let's try to get a good shot here, if possible. Maybe bring the camera down. Did it again, damn it. Excuse me. Readjust the tripod. There we go. And now, as they say, the moment of truth, which I seem to say a lot in these kind of videos here. This is a nice thin, not thin, it's narrow, but that means I can just cut the whole thing. And here's the result. Not bad, I might say. Not bad at all, I think. I think if we don't have medium rare, it might only barely be a tad above it. Because, you know, we've got mostly a nice rare here. I would melt some mozzarella on top. Yeah, that doesn't sound like a bad plan either. But I wanted to give this a try. And most importantly now that I've seen that, of course, there is the question of how it tastes. So, oh yeah, check this out. You know, you definitely have some pink here, though. I'm looking forward to this. So, excuse me one moment while I fill my mouth. Oops. Great. And I dropped it off the fork. And see how it tastes and how tough it might be. Oh, nice. This is definitely a sirloin steak, which means no matter what, it's chewed. You have to accept that. But it's not leather. So that was nice. Oh, I am definitely going to call this one a success, and I'm very pleased about that. So yeah, there we are, folks. Once again, the name of the recipe is steak pizzaiola. I'm definitely going to have to add this to my website and make this something of a permanent meal edition, because it is something that I like how that turned out. And get an amen, or as a flying spaghetti monster might say, ramen. And not only do I have a nice sirloin, well-cooked sirloin, not well-cooked, a nice medium rare sirloin steak that I cooked in the tomato sauce, but I have a bonus here of a nice bowl of pasta sauce that I'm going to have to use and make. Well, it's pizza sauce, I know, but hey, I'll make some pasta with it. So yeah, definitely this again is going to last me. Each time I do this cooking here on YouTube Live, it seems to last me at least a few days. This is at least going to get me through to the weekend. However, I actually should not gorge on this, because I think I told folks I am actually going to a mac and cheese festival tomorrow evening. The local, in Binghamton, the local orchestra, you know, the city orchestra, has a fundraiser tomorrow, and I bought a ticket to it, which is essentially, they call it the Binghamton Mac and Cheese Festival, and that's where, of course, local restaurants all donate bunches of mac and cheese to to this festival, and you pay your ticket, and you buy your ticket, and then you go there, and you can pretty much sample as much mac and cheese. Yep, mac and cheese. as much mac and cheese as you want. So yeah, I should not gorge tonight so that I will be able to eat some mac and cheese tomorrow night, which means probably I'll have some of this tonight, put the rest of this in the fridge, and then there we go. I've got supper for Friday, probably Saturday, probably even Sunday, so I'm doing pretty good here, which also means, for the next few days, I'll be concentrating instead on these short videos that I'm going to be producing on Griswold. I published the first one this morning as an introduction, and I'm hoping to have one of these each day, I hope, over the next few days. It's not going to be some kind of really detailed documentary on Griswold, I guess just like a basic description there, because, well, I mean, what can you say? Griswold. Let's turn the camera back over here, I think, to the cast iron. Because Griswold, I mean, again, Griswold is the name when it comes to vintage cast iron. As you know, the antique vendors go crazy over it. And it's gotten to the point where just about any seller at all knows the name Griswold. I went to a church rummage sale. You know, the kind that churches have, where they sell things at dirt cheap prices. And I came across a small logo Griswold #3. And I asked about that. And even then, the person working there said, "Oh, that's a Griswold. So we're selling that for 15 bucks. So, yeah, everybody knows the name Griswold. But of course, there are differences. So I wonder how many different mac and cheese they will have all there. That's a good question. I mean, Binghamton is a pretty big town. I would not be surprised if there are probably at least maybe 10 to 15 booths, I guess, or kiosks where people have, where they've all set up their mac and cheese. Chances are there will be different varieties of mac and cheese too. So yeah, oh yeah, I definitely want to see how that's going to be. But a great pan is any pan you reach for all the time. Doesn't matter the make. Well, the make can matter, yes. Although really, as you said, what's really important is the use you get out of it. That's why there are folks who are using their Taiwan-made and completely unknown cast iron pans that they got from their grandmother, and they're going to keep using them for the rest of their lives, and the more power to them. And then there are folks like myself who have gotten together this ridiculous collection that I am doing my best to try to rotate through. And yet, even then, I have my preferences. I mean, granted, even though I cooked in a Griswold tonight, and even though I did a video on Griswold, I mean, I've made no secret that my preference is Birmingham Stove and Range. And then, of course, there are most of you folks, and more power to you, who do not have a big collection like mine, who you might have maybe a few pans or maybe even 1 or 2 pans in your kitchen. And those, of course, are your special cast iron pans. And regardless of the make, they're your pans. They're the one, and really, again, what you use, what you do with them is what makes them special. A video while you're there, yeah, that wouldn't be a bad thing either. Even just a short video where I can just do a look at it. I think I should definitely do that. So I'll just bring my phone. Simple as that. Okay, and with that, okay, yeah, as soon as I find lids at the Goodwill, I'll forward the set. Is that burner on? Yes, the burner is still on at this point. And by the way, I noticed the moisture is pretty much gone. There's some kind of a speck in the pan there. Oop, gotta be careful. I don't want to be too stupid and burn myself, but nonetheless, there we go. So yeah, this burner is still on, and it's definitely hot too. In fact, let me do the temperature gun on this thing right now. Oh, look at this. In fact, at the center, it's over 400 degrees. It's definitely hot enough. So, if I can turn the burner off, get out my greasing rag, because, you know, I keep one special rag just for greasing my pans. This thing is, of course, so soaked with Crisco and grease that I probably don't even need to add more to it. And get out my pot holder. That's the lesson I learned years ago. Don't use bare hands for this. And wipe it down. However, as I mentioned, I'm also still thinking I'm going to take the time to completely strip and re-season this one anyway, because it's been a few years and it probably needs it nonetheless. And we will do this. And with that, there we go. The seasoning is not exactly glass smooth on this thing either. That's another reason why I want to strip it and re-season it from scratch. But nonetheless, there we are. Here is our number 10 Griswold. Downsize so you can keep shopping. Wax on, wax off. Breathe in, breathe out. Okay, well, I'm sorry if you're buffering, Cynthia. I'd say we're about getting to that time anyway. We are at an hour and 20 minutes here. And things are doing good here. I've got some steak to eat as well. But there we go. Thank you, everybody, because, as I mentioned, this was a special night for a few reasons. This indeed has been the 6-month anniversary in my new home. And I'm hoping many more anniversaries to come, with any luck. I showed off my new mic, which it looks like everybody, including me, are definitely going to have to get used to this new mic. Trouble is running all over the place and making noise. And of course, I tried a new recipe tonight, steak pizzaiola. And the steak pizzaiola, I am definitely giving a thumbs up. This is something that, I think the end result was, this was easy to make. The end result is definitely delicious, and I would indeed recommend you give this a try. It's a different way to make steak, and I would advise doing what I did, use a cheap cut of steak. Even though those YouTube videos for steak pizzaiola are always using really fancy cuts of meat like ribeye and the like. Again, if I'm gonna do a ribeye, I'm going to just cook a ribeye so that I can taste it. I'm not going to drown it in tomato sauce. On the other hand, drowning this sirloin steak in tomato sauce is definitely a plus, and that's why, as I said, go ahead and give it a try. Let us know how your big cookie recipe turned out. Let you know. Okay, yeah, actually, I do hope. Oh, I see you're doing it this weekend. Well, I'm hoping it turns out well. I think Cynthia Wesley, in fact, made that big cookie recipe last week, and she says her whole family smashed it. So that's a good sign. So yeah, definitely enjoy your cookie, Papa Dan, and thank you as well. Yeah, chuck eye might be a good choice. Yes, exactly, because again, I cooked mine to medium rare. Remember, the other option. And it's entirely your choice because you are the one cooking this. The other option would be to go in the other direction and probably leave that thing simmering in the tomato sauce for anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour. So that, no, it's not going to be medium rare, but on the other hand, it will be tender enough that it's practically pulling apart. The way you might make a brisket, for instance. So, I mean, if you want to try it that way, give it a try. And from there, I think, yeah, as I said, I think I've talked enough, and well, we will get on and enjoy ourselves for the rest of this work night because we still have a couple of days to go. And thank you very much, Papa, again. 6 months in my new home, and here's hoping there are many more to come. And other than that, of course, as always, I can only thank everybody here for showing up because, I know I say this every time because I mean it every time. Having you folks here is really what makes these YouTube live videos so much more fun for me because it's not like I'm just blathering on and on to myself. I get to blather on and on to you folks, and I encourage your comments and your snark. So thank you, everybody. Honey Badger and Val's Black Cat's Rules and Rick Stumbow, Dean Reedy and Cynthia Wesley and Rocket Caver and everybody else. Well, thank you very much for joining me in my kitchen tonight. Yeah, exactly. If you like your steaks medium well, then cook them medium well. It's your steak. You make it the way you want it. I mean, who cares if people say, oh, yeah, if it's well done, we ask them politely to leave. If you want it that way, then cook it that way. It's all up to you. Because, as I also say every time, and I mean it, the real point of all of this is to have fun and cook some delicious food. And if it's not fun, why do it? Yeah, it's 6 months. Time flies. Yeah, tell me about it. And then the best is yet to come because springtime is coming at last. It's always on Valentine's Day. Without fail, I look at the sky early in the morning on Valentine's Day and I notice the days are finally getting longer. I'm seeing light earlier in the morning, and it always seems to be on Valentine's Day that I notice that. I don't make a point of it, it just seems to happen. And with that, we will be going on. And yes, exactly, Clico. Yeah, what do you do with your mac and cheese? Time flies like an arrow, fruit flies like a banana. I haven't seen any fruit flies yet, and hopefully I won't. But it's time to head out now. And so I can only thank everybody, and thank you very much for being there, Kimberly Miller, Jerry 1952, and everybody else. Enjoy yourselves, folks. Give this recipe a try because, as I said, it's easy and it's cheap too. That's not expensive, as you saw. I used some tomato sauce and spices and, of course, a cheap steak, and that was it. So have yourself a good evening, folks. And once again, I'll see you next Wednesday.